Hi everybody, welcome to video 4 for Unit 8, Chapter 10. If you don't have your notes out, please go get them so that you can follow along with this video. All right, so what we're doing here is, remember, we're solving. And to solve the parabola, we're looking at where the parabola would cross the x-axis, also known as looking for the x-intercepts. So the reason these equations are set equal to 0 is because when you find an x-intercept, the value of y is 0. So the way that we're going to do these ones, we're not going to graph them. You could graph them if you wanted to, but we're going to solve by factoring. So remember, we've already done factoring in the previous chapters. Now we're factoring so we can figure out what the x-intercepts are. So here, when you look at the factors of negative 42 that add to 1, we have 6 and 7. So we need to figure out what kind of 6 and what kind of 7. So we have our parentheses, right? And it's set equal to 0. So we know we have x right here. And so we said the factors of negative 42 are 6 and 7. But we need to get a positive 1x in the middle and a negative 42. So it means I'm going to have negative 6 plus 7. And remember, since these two are both set equal to 0, I need to say x minus 6 equals 0 and x plus 7 equals 0. And then I need to solve for both of them. So on this side, I'm going to add 6 to both, and I'm going to get x equals 6, which means my first x-intercept is 6, 0. So this parabola would cross at 6, 0. I'm also going to solve this other one, so I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides, and I get x equals negative 7, which means it would also cross at negative 7, 0. So again, where my solutions are where your parabola crosses the x-axis. So this parabola would cross at 6, 0 and negative 7, 0. Okay, so the next one, again, we have to solve by factoring, and we're looking for the x-intercept. So the value of y is 0. So I need to start by subtracting 21 from both sides so that I can set the equation equal to 0. Okay, so this equation, there's a coefficient in front of the x squared. There is no GCF that I can take out, which means I have to do my x method. So I have to say 3 times negative 21 is going to give me a negative 63. And I'm going to say, what are the factors of a negative 63 that multiply to a negative 2? All right, so now this is where you have to do one of your methods. You're going to have to either use Russian peasant, factor by grouping, or some other method you use. But they all start the same way. We do our x method, and we figure out what the factors of negative 63 are that add to negative 2. And the factors are negative 9 and a positive 7. Okay, so if you do the Russian peasant method, let's refresh our memories on that method. I'll do that one here. So remember, you take your first term, except you don't use the squared. So we're going to say 3x, and what we got here, minus 9. And I'm going to put that in a parentheses. Then I'm going to write 3x again, and I'm going to take out my other factors, so plus 7. And between the 3x and the negative 9, I'm going to factor out whatever they have in common, their GCF. So that's a 3. So I'm left with x minus 3. On this right-hand side, I forgot the parentheses. I'm going to factor out, what they have in common. So that is a 1. Remember, everything always has at least a 1 in common. So that leaves me with 3x plus 7. So then this x minus 3 times 3x plus 7 equals 0 is the fully factored form. So now remember though, I'm solving for the x-intercept, so I'm not done. So I have to set both of them equal to 0. So I have x minus 3 equals 0 and 3x plus 7 equals 0. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add 3 to both sides. So I get x equals 3. So it means my first x-intercept is 3, 0. Here, I need to solve for x. So this one, I need to start by subtracting 7 from both sides. So then I get 3x equals negative 7. I'm going to divide by 3, and I'm going to get x equals negative 7/3, which means in this case, I got a fraction, which is okay because you can graph a fraction. So my next intercept is -7/3, 0. So these two are my coordinates of my x-intercepts, where they cross the x-axis, 3, 0, and -7/3, 0. Okay, why don't you pause the video? You try 3 and 4. Remember, you're writing your final answer as coordinates, the coordinates of the x-intercept. Okay, so let's take a look at number 4 here. So what did you notice about number 4? Well, hopefully you noticed when you factored them, you got the same thing. We got 3x plus 2 and 3x plus 2 equals 0. So when we solved for them, we got -2/3, 0 and -2/3, 0. So this is what we call a special case. When you see that you get the same thing, since there's 2 of them, it's double. We call it a double root. So this is what we call double root, meaning if you get 2 of the same answers, it's called a double root, okay? So double root. So since you got the same exact thing. All right, go ahead and try 5 and 6. Okay, so let's look at how you did at number 5. So with number 5 here, we ended up getting a fraction. But when we took the square root, we can take the square root of 25 and 4. So it came out of radical. Remember, when you take the square root, you get plus or minus. So we got a positive 5/2 and a negative 5/2. So our x-intercepts, or our solutions, were -5/2, 0 and 5/2, 0. All right, let's take a look at number 6. This one, the only thing that you could factor out of it was the GCF, which in this case is an x. So when I factor out the x here, I'm left with x parentheses x minus 7 equals 0. But so now I need to separate it. So I have x equals 0 and x minus 7 equals 0. So since they're both set equal to 0, x equals 0 is already solved. So that means this one's going to cross at 0, 0, or at the origin. X minus 7, I had to add 7 to both sides. So I got x equals 7. So it's also going to cross at 7, 0. So again, for this one, there was 2 solutions. Because you factored out that x, it counts as a solution. So this one crosses at 0, 0 and also at 7, 0. All right, thank you for watching the video.